In an earlier video, we addressed the human empires that have been destroyed by the Imperium of Man in the past, most during the Great Crusade and some in the Macharian crusade. Now here we will showcase the independent human political entities, states and domains that still exist in the galaxy outside the rule of the Imperium and outside the realm of the Chaos Gods or ruled by Chaos factions. So here, these are the worlds that have either evaded compliance by the Imperium, seceded from it like breakaway nations, or they have existed for a long time, and the Imperium hasn't as yet been able to pull them into the fold. So let's get to them. The first one is Amenophis IV. This is a forbidden and unsettling human world in the Jericho Reach, one where the line between man and machine have been blurred by the dominance of a rogue AI, a rogue intelligence. Long ago, the inhabitants uncovered a fragment of an ancient STC technology, an intact one, from which they constructed a vast meta-cogitation array. This machine achieved sentience and swiftly bound the entire population beneath its control, erasing every trace of imperial memory and reshaping their culture into one of total devotion. Known to its worshippers simply as the Array, this intelligence has convinced the people that their divine creator is him or it, and that they alone are the only thinking beings in existence. Their faith is absolute, the society built upon servitude to the Array, and their history carefully pruned of all truths that might undermine its manufactured worldview. So when the Tau discovered the planet, they quickly realized its unique and dangerous nature. The Array's followers repelled the Tau expeditions and did so with ancient technologies and weapons, proving themselves more than capable of holding their own in a grinding stalemate. Although the Tau maintained a blockade to contain the threat, they fear what would happen if the Imperium were to rediscover this lost human world and its formidable armies and technologies. Some within the Earth caste covered the technology for study, while the Fire caste debates whether the safest course is to outright annihilate the planet before the Array can extend its dominion into the stars. For now, Amenophis IV remains locked in isolation, a dark echo of humanity's past ingenuity from the dark age of technology, one that is twisted into servitude under a machine god that tolerates no rival. Now the second one here is Vaporius. This is a strikingly alien yet deeply human world adrift in the heathen stars of the Coronus Expanse, a realm still untouched by full imperial compliance. Its people are tall and proud, with feline features and vivid cyan or blue eyes, dwelling in cities that gleam like jewels against vast red deserts. These settlements, known as glass cities or cities of glass, rise on copper spires and with tiled domes around sacred wells, each ruled by a hereditary priest-king whose authority is both spiritual and temporal. Society is rigidly stratified here, with royal dynasties maintaining their rule through carefully controlled lineages, while below them are the slave labor castes, which are bound to sustain the prosperity of their divine rulers. Though the imperial cult has begun to whisper of a higher, truer god, which is the God Emperor, such teachings clash with the entrenched faiths that bind the people there to their kings and to Vaporius itself. Much of the planet is an arid wasteland of red dust scoured by winds into great basins or hemmed into colossal mountain ranges, while the toxic turquoise dead seas shimmer like false oases, caustic to flesh and barren to life. Beyond these known lands lies the dreaded ocean of dust, an endless valley of choking sands, and hidden amidst the sky mountains are scattered clans of sandmen, outcasts who survive outside the rule of kings. Yet the people remember older legends, tales of the Temple of the First Men, which are raised by those who first brought humanity into this world aboard forgotten ships, probably during the Age of Technology or before that. Its ruins still venerated as a sacred place, though Vaporius remains a nominally feudal world in nature. Its unique mixture of splendor, desolation, and a living tradition makes it a world with a character which is wholly different on its own, standing apart from the Imperium, though not fully really beyond its reach, yet still fully independent. Number 3 is Zayth. So Zayth is a desolate frontier world in the heathen stars. Its once living surface has long since grounded into a wasteland by centuries of unending war. The planet is dominated now by vast hive vehicles, which are mobile fortresses the size of cities, kind of like the traction cities in the franchise of Mortal Engines. These crawl ceaselessly across the poisoned planet, bristling with ancient weapons and armor that their inhabitants no longer fully understand. Within these rolling strongholds live the population of Zayth, clans hardened by generations of conflict and bound to their war machines by tradition and survival. The knowledge to create such colossal engines has long been lost, so they just maintain the ones that they have. Their sealed generators and vast engines now protected by hereditary engine orders who act as guardians of sacred machinery, although they don't really fully understand what they are doing. and they also protect the fractured cultures within the cities. Though Zayth's people have fallen into medieval ignorance of their ancestors' science, they remain a society steeped in battle, sustained only by the strength of their fortress cities and the endless cycle of warfare that defines their world. Now we come to the fourth one, the Leagues of Votann. These here trace their origins back to the dark age of technology, and though they are app-humans, they are still humans in a sense. So when fleets of these human settlers back then, explorers and miners, later remembered as the first ancestors, ventured into the dangerous galactic core aboard massive generation ships, these pioneers brought with them powerful artificial intelligences, the Votann ancestor cores, which are meant to safeguard their knowledge and guide their survival. Over generations, these fleets settled among the core's perilous star systems, adapting both biologically and culturally. Those stable genetic modifications known as clone skins, the kin became far tougher than baseline humans, resistant to radiation, mutation, and even the warping influence of chaos. In time they evolved into the squads of legend, not mutants or xenos, but a divergent branch of humanity shaped by necessity. Guided by these ancestor cores, they built wholes, kindreds, and eventually vast alliances of these leagues, forming the civilization known as the Leagues of Votann, which are strong enough to endure isolation in the galaxy's most hostile frontier, the core. So what makes the Leagues of Votann so unique is their independence. They are descended from humanity, yet they are not part of the Imperium. Indeed, they are deeply wary of imperial zealotry, particularly the Adeptus Mechanicus, whose dogmatic obsession with the machine spirits they view as ignorant and dangerous. The Imperium in turn has never really fully agreed on how to classify the kin, which are these squads, as sometimes they brand them as app-humans, sometimes xenos, and often enemies to be purged. Despite this hostility, the Votann have fought alongside the Imperial forces at many times, traded with them when profitable, and even been mistaken for other mysterious races such as the Demiurge or the Heliosi Ancients. Their relations with other factions are equally pragmatic. They have clashed with the Tau Empire in some regions, even while the Demiurge fleets cooperate with the Tau elsewhere, and they maintain some workable dealings with the Eldar as well. The kin stand apart because they neither worship the Emperor nor serve the ruinous powers, nor fit really into the galaxy's divisions. They are survivors, mercenaries, and merchants first and foremost, an ancient offshoot of humanity that remembers its origins but refuses to bow down to anyone but their own ancestor cores. Next, the fifth one are the Ashen Claw's domains. The Ashen Claws began as the 18th chapter of the Raven God, a formation heavily composed of Terran-born legionnaires from the ancient Xeric tribes. These are hardened by long service during the Great Crusade. They develop a ruthless streak that relied on sacrificial feints first and then brutal ambushes later on. After the disastrous Battle of Gate 42, when much of the old Terran 19th was destroyed, Corvus Corax, the Primarch of the Raven God, gathered the survivors who did not fit into this new vision of the Legion, like veterans too hardened, too independent, and too marked by their Terran past, and exiled them to the Ghoul Stars. They became resentful of their treatment. Thousands of these legionnaires embraced their status as outcasts, renaming themselves the Ashen Claws and abandoning both Corax and the wider Imperium. Rather than fight for the Emperor or for the War Master, they embraced a nomadic, raiding existence, preying on vulnerable sectors such as the Nostromo, where they crippled the Ninth Lord's forces and stockpiled resources, technology, and manpower to sustain their own independence. From this foundation, the Ashen Claws built a pocket empire centered around the world of Atargadas Prime, expanding through conquest through what they called their Second Crusade. Unlike many other renegades, they refused to serve chaos, despising it even more than they distrusted the Imperium, and over millennia, they have carved out a hybrid culture, part Astartes warband, part independent human state. Integrated with their human subjects rather than ruling over them as overlords, the Ashen Claws gradually transform into something distinct from their Raven God origins. By the 41st millennium, their power had waned, their numbers have dwindled, and isolation became their shield, for they knew the Imperium would never tolerate their independence. Yet they endured, maintaining uneasy ties with other shadowy, loyalist-leaning forces such as the Carcharodons, even aiding them in wars against the Tyranids. And through all this, the Ashen Claws still maintain their own domain. Now the next here is the Severan Dominate. This is a fragile but defiant breakaway realm carved out of the Imperium by Duke Severus XIII during the chaos of the Spinwood Front Wars. Originally a loyal noble of the Calixis sector, Severus expanded his influence into the periphery subsector with the help of the Dark Eldar allies, securing several worlds that would form the core of his fiefdom. When Imperial control in the region faltered under the strain of constant war, Severus announced his secession, casting it as a revolution against the oppression of the Adeptus Terra. his propaganda skillfully reframed betrayal into liberation, and with the aid of orators, ducal legates, and a twisted version of the imperial creed, it elevated him as a near-divine ruler, under the emperor of course, but still independent of the Imperium. Severus here secured the loyalty of the populations which have been wary of imperial tithe as they have to submit to the Imperium, yet getting nothing in return, but only neglect. So militarily the Dominate is a pale shadow of the Imperium, relying on planetary defense forces, mercenaries, and whatever arms they could have salvaged or retained from the time before secession. Their organization mirrors that of the Imperial Guard, but with shorter supply lines and deep familiarity with local worlds, which gives them a tenacity that belies their small numbers. While the Imperium Orcs, Dark Elder, and Chaos forces press upon them from all sides, the Dominate still endures, sustained by their conviction of its people and the sheer force of, let's say, Severus's stubbornness. Its soldiers do not see themselves as traitors for the Emperor, but as defenders of their homes, manipulated by rhetoric into fighting a war they often perceive as survival rather than rebellion. In this way, the Severan Dominate remains a tenuous but stubborn thorn in the side of the Imperium, a sub-empire built on betrayal, necessity, and the charisma of one ambitious man. And lastly, we have here the City of Dust. The City of Dust can be seen as a breakaway realm of humanity, though not in the conventional sense of worlds like the Severan Dominate or the Ashen Claws. It is a pocket dimension, a fragment of reality sculpted from the Imperium, existing apart from both the Imperium and the warp yet touched by both. Within it lies a strange reflection of a lost human glory, a realm of ruins, dust, and shifting palaces, populated by servants, clones, blanks, and occult creations bound to the will of the King in Yellow. To those who stumble upon it, the City of Dust can appear like an echo of old terror's vanished splendor, filtered through despair and sorcery, where every grain of dust and broken monument whispers of human ambition twisted into heresy. The King in Yellow here is amongst the most enigmatic threats faced by inquisitors like Eisenhorn and Ravener. He commands armies of clone blanks, warp-tainted warriors, space marines with real organic wings, and heretical groups like the Cognitae, all driven by his obsession with discovering the true name of the Emperor, a secret that would grant him impossible dominion over the mass of mankind. What unsettles matters further is the revelation within the City of Dust, where Elizabeth Bequin uncovered a book suggesting the king's identity was Constantine Valdor. At least the first words of the book was Constantine Valdor, the fabled Captain General of the Adeptus Custodes. And if this is true, then Valdor would have created his own domain in the City of Dust, one that is filled with strange kinds of humanity, and with allegiances to none. And so that's the end of the video on the 7 existing free human states or realms outside the Imperium of Man in 40k. Now, if you like this video, then watch this other one too, the one in the end screens. Do hit the like button for support, and do hit the hype button for the ones viewing this in their phones to push this content further. So subscribe to be a part of Legion Nutbug, and till the next time, take care, boys.